My name's April Bargoot, and I'll be serving as your worship associate today. Our senior minister, Reverend Rebecca Froome, is currently on sabbatical through August 23rd. We are pleased that our service this morning is being led by our sabbatical minister, Reverend Bo Rivers. I extend a special welcome to those of you who are guests or are feeling new to our community. If this is one of your first times with us this morning and you feel comfortable, I invite you to follow the link on our website, ufpc.org, and let us know how we might contact you or if you have any questions we can answer. Thank you for joining us today. The reading today is entitled, Like the First Hint of Green by Jennifer McLaughlin. And as we light our chalice, a symbol of the Unitarian Universalist faith, I ask if you have a chalice or candle at home, I invite you to light it as well. Like the first hint of green. As the first hint of green begins to peek through the barren ground, as that little sprig grows into a healthy stem, as that stem grows into a stalk and forms a bud, as that bud slowly opens with each new day to form a yellow daffodil, let us be like that first hint of green, renewed by the warmth of the sun's rays and ready to emerge with a new energy, ready to face the day. We light this chalice to bring a glimmer of that warmth into our space. Please join us in reading our covenant. You will find the words on your screen or posted on our website. As a free fellowship of this historic church, we unite to lift our hearts and open our minds to a larger reality, to accept, support, and encourage one another, to seek the wisdom in all religions, to cherish and sustain the web of life, and to strive for justice, compassion, and peace. Will you join us as we lift our voices in song for hymn number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
Wiley, can we have the call to worship next?
Yes, we can. Trying to focus you on screen here. I cannot find your user. Bo, you need to turn your video on, I think.
Okay, do we have picture and
There we go.
audio? Yes, okay. So we'll start again. Good morning and happy Easter to everyone. It's great to see you all here this morning. When I got up and looked out my window this morning, I saw a rather large bunny waving from the back of a pickup truck. And following behind it was a parade of cars honking their horns and bringing joy as they drove through the neighborhood. I called it the Bunny Parade. Easter is also a time when Christians contemplate Jesus' death and celebrate his resurrection from the dead to eternal life. And so this is a holy day for us as well. Today is also the fourth day of Passover in the Jewish tradition. And so to all our Jewish friends, Chag Pesach Sameach, or Blessed Passover. On this special day, when we cannot be together in person, we have invited you to create sacred space in your homes by offering suggestions on how to make your own chalice and how to decorate the space around it with objects that have special meaning to you. There will be an opportunity for us to share our sacred spaces with each other in small groups using a feature in Zoom called breakout rooms during our time for all ages. So now let us come into this circle of community. Come into this sacred space we create together by bringing our whole selves, bringing the joy that makes our hearts sing, bringing our kindness and compassion for one another, bringing our disappointments and sorrows, our weary spirits and questing minds, and most importantly, bringing our hope for the future. Here, may we recognize the spark of the divine that resides in each of us. Here, may we know the joy of wholeness. Here, in this sacred space, may we know the joy of being together. And so come, let us worship. Now we'll have these time for all ages.
Good morning. So one of the things that Bo mentioned was something that can connect us together even when we're apart. And that is something that we can do. April had mentioned lighting a chalice while we were lighting the chalice virtually. So I wanted to offer some ideas about what you could do for a quick chalice at home. You could take an object and put a cup on it, and you have a little votive candle, and you've got one kind of chalice. You could take a wine goblet, which belonged to my grandmother, and you could create another kind. If you have pots at home, you could take a flower pot and turn it upside down and attach the saucer on, and you would have another kind of chalice. And for the kids, I made one out of Legos. So we can light a chalice, and we have a Lego chalice. So there's one idea of having a chalice that everybody could make at home. And if you needed a battery-operated votive light, let me know, because I can share some with you. I can send them in the mail. But now, if I'm going to create a space that is my altar, I'm going to start with a few objects that then my chalice will go on. So many years ago, I made out of cloth a little chalice cloth, and I made it with a dear friend of mine who's no longer here. But I remember Zenda whenever I take that chalice cloth out, and then I have a little demi-tasse cup with the saucer, and so there's my chalice. So there are other options for chalices, and I wanted to show you quickly that Worship Web on the UUA has a website where you can download the app and you can light the chalice right on your phone or on your computer, which is pretty neat. And that's on the UUA's website. So then other things that you might put on the altar are things that are important to you that have great meaning. I have here a fan, which reminds me of travels with my daughters, and other objects, since I love nature and I love taking walks, and you find interesting things. So I have a piece of dried up wood that I found walking through the bogs, and then stones that you find walking on the beach. And often that's with my family or when my kids were little and they would hand me a rock. I also have a shell and some little gemstones and a piece of quartz. So when you're creating an altar, you're creating a space that feels special for you, that might bring you memories of family or what's important to you. I have a kaleidoscope here, which I will put on here, and it was my dad's, and he loved to collect kaleidoscopes. So your altar could change week to week, or it could be the same, and you might add a bit of objects. Maybe you find a feather on the ground and you put it on there. You put a photo of somebody special. But that's how we can create altars and bring special meaning. Not only that now we're bringing part of our church into your homes, so when we're worshiping together on Sunday or when you're meditating, you're finding that connection. So now I'm going to give you some directions to go into breakout rooms. And we're going to move people into rooms of about 5 devices, I would say. And you want to share maybe whether you have a chalice or maybe you want to think about what you would like to make your chalice out of, you could share. And also maybe one object that you might put on your altar table. And then you'll have about 10 minutes, so 5 groups of people, 2 minutes each, to kind of share what your chalice is and what is important about an object in your on your altar. And then after that, you'll be called back into the room and we will bless our altar spaces. So Wiley, if you could move people into their breakout rooms, please.
All right. Do that. Second, please.
Yep.
for
Okay, we have everybody back now.
Great. Thank you, Wiley. We've seen great cathedrals and slender minarets, placid pagodas, sweat lodge hogans, ice age caverns, and Stonehenge slabs, where our ancestors have worshipped over the centuries. But here, in this time, we build temples in our hearts and in our homes as a place of refuge and solace in uncertain times. May you find peace of mind as you gaze into the flame of your chalice. May you feel love surround you as you place on the altar the sacred objects you have chosen. And may you radiate that love and peace out into the world. Blessed be.
We drink from wells we did not dig, and we sit in the shade of trees we did not plant. As the recipients of all we have received from those who came before us, we are called to share our abundance with those who will follow us. This congregation aspires to do life-affirming and life-transforming work, both for those of us who gather within these walls and for the larger web of life of which we are a part. As a voluntary association, our church is sustained through the gifts of the members and friends of the congregation. Your generosity keeps the lights on and our gardens watered. Your generosity sustains our lifespan religious education program. Your generosity supports a liberal religious voice in our greater community. These social distancing measures we are practicing have fundamentally changed the way we must perform our offertory. Please take this moment to visit our website and consider clicking on the donate button located on the homepage of our website, ufpc.org, to support the good works of United First Parish Church. Let us open our hearts as these gifts are joyfully given and gratefully received.
Each week we take time to share our important joys and sorrows, so all of us might help carry the burden and join in the celebration. We begin by lighting our candles of joy and of sorrow. If you wish to acknowledge a sorrow or joy from your heart, I invite you to participate in one of three ways. You may physically raise your hand to the camera and wait for someone to call on you by name, or you may raise your hand electronically by clicking on the participant icon at the bottom of your screen and selecting the raise hand option. After you have spoken, remember to unraise your hand so we don't call on you twice. If you prefer not to use your microphone, you may type your joy or sorrow to us by using the chat box at the bottom of your screen, and someone will read it aloud for you. I begin by sharing a joy and a sorrow this morning. My joy is today is my birthday, and I cannot recall a time when I was ever more grateful for the gift of life than I am today. And I also share the sad news that Joe Perry died of Parkinson's disease this past week. I'll be sending out an email with more information later this week on how we can support the family. Would anyone else like to share?
I see Lee and Anne Marie.
Thanks, Wiley. I have a joy to share, and that is that we had some family members joining us for church today, which normally would not ever happen on Easter. And so my mother-in-law has joined the service, and my sister and her husband have joined the service as well. And it's, you know, not quite the same as being together in the pews, but I'm really delighted that they are here today.
Thank you. I see Sharon. Sharon, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I just kind of a joy and a concern. My niece, Libby, who works for Mayo Clinic, she's a scientist and works in the laboratories there, and she usually works on things related to HIV and hepatitis, but their lab has been totally changed, and so she will be working on the test for the coronavirus. So I'm happy for her because she has that skill and she can contribute in that way, but I'm also concerned for her. So.
See Brenda Reed has her hand up.
So many of you have been asking about the progress of Florence Noonan. So I have a little bit of information. Florence had surgery Friday a week ago, and she spent most of the next week in the ICU. So a bit of a concern that she was there for much longer than anticipated. But she is now on a general floor, and she is trying to get her strength back. And I hope to know a little bit more later this week if I can speak with her directly. I've been getting information relayed through email through a friend. So that's what I know so far.
Kate Hurley.
Hi, I have a concern, a sorrow. I learned on Friday when I finished my shift at work that leadership had made a decision to force a key member of my team to resign, and it couldn't come at a worse time, and it was very unexpected, and at a time when every day is full of anxiety. To lose a key person, my mentor, and someone who had such clinical knowledge is left my whole unit and I feeling more scared, rudderless, and very concerned. And please keep me and my entire unit in your thoughts, and how we're going to navigate getting through this without this very key person.
Is there anybody on the phone that wishes to speak? If so, you can unmute yourself.
This is Jane. My brother is still in a nursing home. I'm unable to see him except through the window. And I'm planning to go over today. Have made a card, a big one for him, to put and tape on the window. But he's been trying to get better from a stroke, and he seemed to be better last week. But I hear that he's not doing too well this week. And he's 85, but he's still, he's a great guy, and maybe Jimmy. His name is James, and he needs some healing thoughts. Thank you.
Is there anybody else on the phone that wishes to express a joy or sorrow at this time?
Wiley, I'd like to do something. Everyone, I just want you all to know that I've completed half of my radiation on Friday. I completed 9 sessions, I have another 9 to go. I'll be finished on April 24th. It's been a little anxiety ridden because I have to go into Beth Israel in Boston, but the care there has been great, and everyone's wearing masks and everyone's keeping their distance within the hospital, although I know that, you know, on the other side of the building, they're burdened, as every hospital is, with the virus. But I just want you to know what's going on with me, and have everyone just think about everyone else going through various medical issues apart from the virus. You know, a little stressful. That's all.
Mamuda has their hand up.
Yeah, I have a joy. I also want to acknowledge all the suffering that's going on here and you know, within our community and beyond. The joy I have is that, you know, babies are being born, and it's an extra joy. Our neighbor just had a little girl, and my good friend and former colleague in Seattle is about to have her baby. So it's gratifying to hear those things.
This is Wiley. I literally just found out that someone that is on the board of the racing group that I've known for about 10 years just passed away this morning from coronavirus. So I'd ask that you keep his family in your thoughts, please. Anybody else wants to express a joy or sorrow, please? Pat and Clyde?
Yeah, just a real quick joy here. Pat and I, as you might know, have an annual bet about when the hearing will show up in Jackson Square at the Weymouth Fish Ladder, and we've been seeing them lately, although they're a little bit scarce. And so I guess Pat's gonna have to pay off that bet when and if taverns are opened up again.
Crap.
Anybody else have a joy or sorrow they wish to express? Thank you all for sharing.
I light this last candle for all that remains unspoken in our hearts. For all that is spoken and unspoken, let us take a moment of silent meditation and prayer that will begin and end with the sound of a bell. Spirit of love, we lift up those who mourn the loss of loved ones, particularly those who have succumbed to the coronavirus. We also lift up those who are not well in body, mind, or spirit, who are isolated and living in fear. We lift up our first responders who are putting their lives on the front lines, and our health care givers. And we lift up those unable to visit their loved ones in healthcare facilities. And Spirit of life, we give thanks for the resurrection of spring in the bloom of the magnolia trees, the rhododendrons, and the azaleas, for the warmth of sunshine after a long, cold winter, for the birth of new life and the reunion of family members on this special holiday when that might not have happened, and for achieving milestones in cancer treatment. For all this and many more blessings, we give our thanks. As many of us mourn being unable to worship in our beloved historic sanctuary due to our current self-imposed exile, I'm reminded of the Israelites who were exiled by the Romans after the destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem in 71 CE. This marked the transition in Judaism from animal sacrifices in the temple to the practice of prayer and abiding by certain laws and customs in the home. Fortunately, United First Parish Church still stands at 1306 Hancock Street. But the church has left the building. We are the church, and we are bringing the church into our homes. Creating sacred space in the home is practiced in the Jewish, Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim, Indigenous, and goddess traditions. It's nothing new. Sacred space is something we create by setting our intention. When we light a candle or gaze upon an object that inspires a sense of beauty, awe, refuge, or love, we become aware of the divine spark within ourselves and others. And it is this awareness that becomes our salvation in times of trouble. When I was a young adult, I found sacred space in nature and would frequent those places where I felt most peaceful. I thought my inner state depended on my environment. And when I began my meditation practice, I learned how to connect with my own inner peace or divine spark in any environment and without having to travel great distances. There's a verse in the Hindu Upanishad that says, "We could have golden treasure buried beneath our feet and walk over it over again and again, yet never find it because we don't realize it's there." Just so, all beings live every moment in the city of divine and don't realize it, because the divine is hidden by the veil of illusion, and that illusion is the busy world in which we live. Another spiritual practice that helps us move beyond the veil to connect with the divine spark within is the practice of mindfulness from the Buddhist tradition. And there are many others as well. Creating sacred space begins by setting our intention and focusing the mind through controlling the breath, or repeating a mantra, or reciting a prayer, reading an affirmation, or singing a favorite song. And for some, holding a particular posture. With focus and repetition, the space we create in our minds and in our homes develops a cumulative charge that is palpable, not unlike what we experience when we enter a shrine or a temple or a synagogue or a chapel or our very own sanctuary. We come to realize that wherever we are standing on holy ground. And this is how we resurrect the church in our homes. May you find the time, may you take the time to move beyond the veil of illusion and find peace of mind during this extraordinary time. May it be so. I invite us now to keep our microphones muted as we sing our closing hymn, "This Little Light of Mine."
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.